Hey, what's up, guys? Local sushi chef JC here. I hope you guys are well blessed, not stressed. Welcome back to another touch of the episode myself and Cal shot on the Chill Out with Cal and JC podcast. So the last episode that we were shooting was based around communication and relationships. We decided that we want to touch on it, and we're going to be going a bit deeper in, and we're going to be talking about different mindsets. So we've decided that we're going to touch on the previous episode with regards to mindsets and relationships and communication. So Cal is always talking about inward and outward mindsets, in our household because she's studying and she's doing this course. And we decided tonight that we're going to give it a go and we're going to hear what it's about because it could be enhancing to relationships and it could also be something that could be very mindful for us to know.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, JC. So I think, people can operate from two mindsets, namely called the inward or outward. And actually, sometimes you're not only just operating from one mindset, like the outward or the inward, because sometimes you can swing between the two, the outward and the inward.
Yeah.
So if we speak about inward, like they say that there's no I in teamwork.
Yes.
It's operating from a space of me and you focused on my results.
Yeah.
Where the opposite is an outward mindset, and that is where they teach you, or it's a skill that you learn to operate, like I said, from an outward mindset, and it's about our results together. Okay. So from an inward mindset, you'll see people as objects, and I always say like people aren't objects.
Yeah.
And from an outward mindset, you'll see them as people.
Yeah.
You'll value them as much as you value yourself.
Yes.
And these things, like you say, it will matter to us, as it is our.
Yeah.
Because you're focusing on our results.
Yes. It's
and
not
the
just
person.
the part where you hit a fired conversation and you want to prove a point. At the end of the day, you don't want to walk away from a conversation with a bitter taste in your mouth. So it's the I becomes we. And I think
Yeah.
the debating factor around how to resolve it.
So sometimes you can be in four boxes and not even know that you are there, because in a conversation, it's like you'll say, you refer to it as being better than, or I deserve, or worse than, or need to be seen.
Yeah.
And for example, when I know we had a segment where we spoke about chores,
Yeah.
and like your job is very demanding, like the hours.
Yeah.
My job as well is equally demanding, but I work corporate hours. You work restaurant hours, or depending
Yeah.
on what project a restaurant you're opening.
Yeah.
But it is, for example, you'll say, okay, who's going to cook tonight? Or I would end early.
Yeah.
And you'll come home and there's an expectancy that, I had to cook because I was, let's just say, home at 5 and
Yeah.
you came home at 12.
Yeah.
And then you'll be maybe huffing and puffing. And then you'll think like, but you came home at 5 and like, why didn't you cook? And, you'll be like maybe all snotty because, you deserve a home cooked meal.
Yeah.
Even, if you come home at 12 because maybe you think your job is more strenuous.
Yeah.
So that is where you fit into this box where, I deserve this.
Yeah.
I think that can also fall into a category of better than.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, maybe you place the weight of your job or your career.
Yeah. So basically, you tend to find um, characteristic self views of oneself. Basically, saying the inward mindset is somebody that is self conscious and doesn't put anybody before themselves. So, inward mindset individuals are individuals that basically it's very hard for them to work in a team. It's also very hard for them to toggle around teamwork because they are only focused on them. They are not worried about what is said to other people around them.
So it's self-justifying views of themselves.
Yes.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like I deserve a home cooked meal.
Yeah. And you don't care about the person that is actually at home that maybe had a hectic day at work. You're just coming home expecting a home cooked meal because
Because you are deserving
I'm
of
deserving
that,
of it,
and you
not
worked
worried about
harder for
Cal
the
that
day.
was sitting in 10 corporate meetings and was walking on high heels and has blisters and things now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't say in a nutshell, but if we use an example, of two individuals that has inward mindsets, let's use an example. Myself and you are two inward individuals. What's going to happen is, firstly, when people are inward with mindsets, there's going to be a lot of bickering, there's going to be a lot of arguing, there's going to be a lot of misunderstandings. Why? Because there is a lack of empathy, because they don't see the other person's emotional feelings, they don't take their feelings into consideration. And also, in certain aspects, there would then be a lack of respect for one another, because their needs instead of our needs, gets put in front of each other and they knock heads. And in most cases, it just turns out to be, a catastrophe. So, how do you, get out of this conundrum, if you want to call it that? How do you improve your mindset, and how do you get away from, what's the solution to getting away from this, mindset?
So to operate from an outward mindset, like I said, you have to see as people, as humans, and not as objects. So you have to see others. You have to, adjust your efforts, because everything takes effort. And, you have to also measure your impact. So, in other words, like you said, with empathy, understand, their needs, their objectives,
Yeah.
and then, just be more helpful, be a kind human.
Yeah. I think in most areas, not just in relationships, also because this does in some way also impact the individual's, outside life, with work relationships, with family relationships, and the characteristics that they portray doesn't necessarily fit into what is expected at that certain time. May it be at work, may it be at a family gathering, may it be in their relationship. So one way to get out of it is potentially just to be more kind, like you said, and also just to have more empathy, and be more helpful around other people's emotions, other people's thoughts, and also, winning together and being a team player. How do you approach the conversation with, let's say, your partner or your work colleague or your family member, when you start noticing these patterns and when you start seeing that things is going into a downward spiral?
Well, I think first you have to identify the conversation you need and just, try to get unstuck from there. And then also sometimes, we tell each other, these stories in our head, and sometimes they're just negative. And, always say as well, separate facts from stories, like what is factual. And, you tell the rest of the story, but, you have to also question and ask yourself, what is my role in this? And then how do you move forward from this? As I mentioned, you should always start with your heart, set your intent. So you start with heart and you say, these are my intentions. And you say it upfront before you have this. It can either be a casual or crucial conversation, but if it's a pattern that turns into a crucial conversation, hopefully it doesn't get there, and you're having a casual conversation and you're saying, this is my intent and my intentions are. So I said you start with the heart and it's like, what do I really want? What is this, other person also really want, what does my partner want, or my colleague, or my friend, parent, sibling. And sometimes, like I said, you have to create a safe space for this person, and you have to make them feel safe. And again, that is by sharing your good intent, upfront. And how you always set goals and objectives at work. So you will share and say, this is the goal, or maybe you have a common goal that you're both working towards, and you kind of lost track of that or sight of that. So just set your intent up front.
So, what do you do when somebody is becoming defensive in the conversation that you're trying to approach and is misunderstanding your intent?
Well, then you just say, you just clarify, I don't think, that is what I meant, or I do think, you know, just state your actual purpose or intent again.
So, in actual fact, when you approaching conversations like this, maybe with work, let's say a work colleague, let's say your partner, your spouse, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, and one of the individuals is not aspiring to want to resolve the issues or is not as motivated. In this instances, I think what is crucial is firstly, to understand their heart, give them space to talk, let them out whatever it is they need to out, so that you can have a better pathway in understanding how to adjust and approach your next actions with regards to what you're going to be doing. Take them back to when everything started. That ignites emotional flair again, the memories. Talk about the good things, talk about more good things than what you would bad things, because when you're going to be talking about bad things, it's going to be triggering a lot of negative emotions, and that could also possibly just make the individual less desirable to want to change or to find better options to make things better.
But there's also consequences. And unfortunately, as much as I don't like to speak negative, you have to make them aware
Yeah,
of, how the actions are impacting you or the next
yeah,
person or the
yeah,
relationship or the family,
mm,
or your friendship.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that is like really much key for you to identify
yeah,
those, and maybe just come up with
yeah,
solutions and ideas, and maybe there's a gap that's missing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Identify those,
Mm-hmm.
work on it, and then what we always miss sometimes, and again, I say I love writing things down
Mm-hmm.
because that is holding you accountable,
Yeah,
and you come back to what you have jointly agreed upon
yeah,
together.
mm,
And that's your actionable notes
yeah,
that you can work towards and say, okay, let's reassess in a month's time, and then after a month, maybe another 2 months, just to work on whatever it is that you agreed upon.
yeah. Look, at the end of the day, um, to be factual about what is currently transpiring in any situation, I think the importance of outlining, the energy that the individuals had, as I was saying in the beginning of touching on this point, so that it could just maybe just spark a flare of excitement again, so that they can just remember this is why I started when they feel they want to give up. It's very good to have the underlying aspects of what could happen, you understand, but at that same time we also don't know what the individual is thinking. We don't know how the individual is processing certain things, and
Yes.
it is a good thing to let them know, look, there is consequences to the actions. So there could be consequences also, and it's important to note the consequences so that the individual understands, look, there is repercussions to actions, but also to understand that you're not there to put anybody down. You want to assist and you want to find a solution so that you both can win at the end of the day.
So that is why I think you mentioned a point earlier on, and I think that is why it's key. If you are going to get stuck in the conversation, is to write down your thoughts and what you'd like to say. I mean, sometimes I tend to forget. Um, and what helps me is to write my thoughts down or what I would want to say in the conversation so that I also don't lose track of my points. And I think that is also, again, holding you accountable for yourself for what you want to achieve together with that person in that conversation.
Okay. So, what other, let's say future actions or what other steps can you as a individual take with the different party or the different partner or the work colleague or the partner or the boyfriend, girlfriend, husband? What other actions can you take to resolve this and how can you make it better?
I think it's just, if you identify a pattern and, come up with a solution and, like I said, actionable steps towards solving if it's a problem that you have, and actually putting in the effort and, making time to work through these solutions together, or if it's an individual, that you have to do by yourself as well, and to also try and operate from that outward mindset as well. And I think it's also that you have to you have to look inward at yourself, before you actually look at the next person. So it starts with you, like me, I as the individual first,
Yes.
to make that change
Yeah.
before you look at the next person.
Yeah.
So you be the change.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, basically, if we want to conclude with everything that has been said, um, I think one of the characteristics that every individual should play is just being kind, is being understanding, listening, and also knowing how to approach conversations. I mean, in the real world, we can't always have pen to paper for arguments that you're going to have at work or with your partner or
You're right.
whoever.
And that's a valid point because, they teach us all of these skills. They try to equip us, with all of these tools.
Yeah,
But sometimes you are faced maybe in that meeting or that conversation
yeah,
and it's happening right now.
yeah,
You don't have your little cheat sheet, or your cards, your
yeah,
SOS cards, like I like to call them, to know
yeah,
how do I deal with the situation.
yeah,
But I think it's also okay to say, I'm not prepared for this.
yeah,
What is the conversation about? And maybe say, can we maybe just discuss what you'd like to discuss
yeah,
and then come back to this,
yeah,
maybe in a day or two or
yeah,
in a week or so.
yeah,
What I also found is sometimes we are so solution driven. Yes, we are supposed to be solution driven, that we forget maybe if the person's withdrawing or just not participating in the conversation, is to say, actually, let's take a step back and try to repair our relationship first
yes,
before we try to solve for this
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Because we're so focused on that, like we need to, but then this person's like maybe has a wall up and
yeah,
withdrawing and just maybe blatantly ignoring you.
yeah, yeah,
So I think that is key to do first and
yeah.
then continue from there.
So with all the studies that you've been doing and with all the reading that you've been doing and all the exercises that you've been doing with your work colleagues or the people that's in your class or the teams that you're in, if you should take what you have learned so far and what you've spoken about now and you look at your life personally, do you think this information and what you have been taught or what you are learning currently has added any value to your life? And is there maybe any examples that you can give of how this also assisted you to get out of sticky situations, or also how it enhanced your life?
100% yes, it has enhanced my life. And like I said, it's a tool and a skill that you have to practice every day
Hmm.
because communication is key. I mean, we communicate, we're
Yeah,
human beings,
yeah,
we have relationships with
yeah,
people every single day.
yeah,
And it's a lifelong tool
Yeah.
because relationships are lifelong.
Yeah.
So it's a commitment that you make to yourself,
Yeah.
to be the best version for yourself
Yeah.
and for others.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do use these tools on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Some of them I would hope to use more,
Yeah.
but it also depends on the relationship
Mm-hmm.
and the person.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you do get stuck
Mm-hmm.
and you think, what do I do in this situation?
Yeah.
Like I said, if the person's maybe withdrawing and you trying to, you know that there's something critical you need to chat about
Yeah.
and you bring up the conversation, but this person is just maybe not responding to your emails. I mean, what do you do then?
Yeah.
How do you approach it?
Yeah.
So that is where I got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to find, okay, what tool do I use now?
I'll just generally go to your office and say, why you're not reading your emails? Yo, what the, you know?
But yeah. So so it's just sometimes it's just when in the process do
Yeah.
you use these tools.
Yeah.
But I think it all will flow and come together
Yeah.
the more you actually read and make use of it
Yeah.
on a daily basis.
I think also, they say you're never too old to learn. I'm not going to be exposing your age because everybody knows you're 22 years old. I think also experience is our biggest teacher. If I can use my life, not even my personal life, but my working life as well as a chef. And I like to use these analogies because most of the things that I do in the kitchen is things that I apply in my life. It might not be scripted, but it's things that helps me get on along in my life. So there might be a recipe that I don't know, and the executive chef comes to me and says, "Look, I need you to make this entree with a truffle sauce, and I need you to sear that fish, particularly at that degrees, and I want, the carrots cut very thin in order for it to be like this," and shows me a picture afterwards and asks me, can I do it? At that moment, I wouldn't know how to do it, but I would approach it and I would want to do it because doing it gives me the experience of learning. And I think that as humans, we forget that learning is one of the most basic things and the most fundamental things that we do every day, not just necessarily in work, but also, in our private lives and also as humans, because we're learning every day and applying the things that we learn every day, not just in our working area, but also in our personal lives, can be a very big plus for us as individuals and help build better relationships with the people that we care for.
So how you start the conversation is equally important as how you end it. So remember to end it well with your actionable points, like
Yeah.
who will do what by when,
Yeah.
and set your follow-up dates as we mentioned earlier on.
Yeah. Look, in I'd say in a real world, um, when it comes to relationships, overall relationships, I think the importance is just to have a heart for people, is to understand people, and also know how to communicate with people. I think we all fall short at times where we end up just saying, yeah, I can't communicate with this person. This person doesn't understand. I need to reiterate. I need to continuously break certain things down. But I think the most vulnerable thing that we all, lack as humans is kindness and having empathy for the next person. So we've come to the end of this episode, and this is the second part of it. I think we're going to be shooting a third part, and we just want to emphasize the importance again of having a heart, having empathy and staying kind in all relationships, understanding what you need to talk about, and also working out certain action plans as to the way forward, not for one individual, but for the team. And there's no I in team, so you have to work together in order to get it done. With that being said, thank you for joining us. We'll be seeing you guys soon again.
Chill out with Carl and JC. Until next time, stay blessed and stay kind.
Peace.